Welcome to episode 5 of the Always On podcast series, recorded in Carousel's Executive Briefing Center here in our headquarters in Rhode Island. I'm your host, Jason Albuquerque, Carousel CIO and CISO. On this episode, we'll get up and close and personal with Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE for you cool kids. This is the Always On podcast series where we explore the intersection between technology, security, and business with the industry's best. All right, let's go. We have two great guests today who are joining us to talk about SASE and SASE architecture. We have Eyal Webber-Zvik, VP of Product Marketing at Cato Networks. Previously, Eyal ran Cato's product management organization, and he brings more than 20 years of ICT experience. Cato is the world's first SASE platform, converging SD-WAN and network security into global cloud-native services. Jonny Noble is our other guest. He's the manager of technical marketing at Cisco Cloud Security. Jonny leads the technical marketing team for cloud security at Cisco, with expertise in Cisco Umbrella and SASE technologies. Welcome, gentlemen, to the Always On podcast series. Appreciate your time.
Hi. Thank you, Jason.
So first, let's get into Gartner's definition here from the Gartner Hype Cycle. Definition of SASE. So here's the definition as listed. Secure Access Service Edge, pronounced SASE, delivers multiple capabilities such as SD-WAN, Secure Web Gateway, CASB, Next Generation Firewall, and Zero Trust Network Access. SASE supports branch office and remote worker access. SASE is delivered as a service and based upon identity of the device and entity, combined with real-time context and security and compliance policies. Identities can be associated with people, devices, IoT, or edge computing locations. So that's a long, complicated definition. So Jonny, now that we've talked about the Gartner Hype Cycle definition, let's talk about what SASE really means to the business.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, it's a long and complex definition, but it's also, it's a long and complex journey as well. But the idea is, at the end of the day, at the end of this journey, it's really going to simplify things for our customers and for their users as well. So we're looking at building something that for our customers will give them flexibility and make it future-proof. So, for example, if we look at even in the last few months, sort of legacy architectures worked well for customers. But when the pandemic hit, we're seeing a lot of our customers, a lot of companies got burnt because they had a sort of a rigid and an architecture that wasn't very flexible, wasn't able to change. So looking at backhauling, for example, where branches would connect via some kind of a circuit to the headquarters and break out securely from the headquarters. Remote users would connect through VPNs in order to get access to company resources. Today that's changing. A lot of the work we all do is cloud-based. We're accessing applications that run in the cloud. So it doesn't make sense anymore for a remote user, a remote worker, to have to connect all the time to their VPN to access resources that aren't even on the company network anyway. So, that's sort of the areas that we're looking at. It's interesting because based on Gartner's definition, SASE is a vision. And that vision is a journey, like I said, and it's still in early stages. So it's a great concept, and it shows that this isn't a single step. And for many organizations, this is going to take quite a few years. So, some industries, for example, financial verticals, they're going to be much slower to run with this, and they can't make any big snappy decisions due to considerations like heavy compliance that they have. So that's why it's important to not do this very quickly and rush into it, but work with a vendor that has a vision and you can work with over time.
No, that makes sense. And Eyal, to Jonny's point, there's a lot of misconception on what SASE actually is, right? So can you just kind of demystify that a little bit and talk a little bit about what exactly is that defined requirement to be a SASE architecture? And then really, what is it not, right? Because again, there's a lot of confusion on what it is and what it isn't.
Okay. Well, that's a great point, and something that we hear customers ask very often. They hear a lot about SASE. Every respected vendor in the market today is showing some kind of SASiness. And it's a very big thing. And I think Gartner defined 4 pillars for a SASE architecture. The first one is that it has to be cloud native, which means that it was written and designed to be delivered as a cloud service. It implies that it has the characteristics of a cloud service in terms of scalability and elasticity. Second thing is it has to be global. Organizations shouldn't be limited by the footprint of the SASE provider. So the bigger the SASE cloud, the better it is. Then it should support all edges, which means not only branch offices like traditional SD-WAN solutions, but also remote users, IoT, etc. And lastly, it has to converge the networking and the security elements of IT infrastructure. And I think that convergence is a key word in the SASE architecture. There are many ways to differentiate between convergence and integration. But generally speaking, integration is the old way of building an IT infrastructure, of connecting multiple solutions, whether they are from the same vendor or from multiple vendors, and have them work with each other to some degree. And convergence means that they come already built and designed to work holistically as a single solution that has all those capabilities. And I think the last point I would make is that SASE is more than just a cloud security solution. Gartner, in their definition, lists SD-WAN as the first capabilities of SASE, and I think it was done intentionally to show that SASE also needs to cover the physical network that serves as the on-ramp to the cloud service.
Yeah. So to your point, it's not chaining together or integrating together multiple point solutions, right? It's literally
Correct.
by design, by architecture, being built that way, meant to support cloud-based, global distributed services, right?
Correct.
Now, from your perspective, Eyal, and then I'll kick it over to Jonny after that. There seems to be an incredible amount of business benefit to moving toward a SASE model. So what are some of the customer requirements or drivers that you've seen that have really pushed this architecture out into the industry?
I think customers want to be able to feel the value of SASE immediately. Because it's such a radical change in terms of architecture and how IT are running their infrastructure, they want to be able to have a tangible sense of the values that they would get out of SASE. As a result, most of Cato's sales are driven by successful proof of concepts, where customers try our technology and solution hands-on. And when a SASE is built correctly according to the architecture and it speaks to all the benefits that customers are looking for, then the way to choose to move from traditional legacy IT infrastructure to a SASE service is very simple. Once the value is proven and felt by the customer.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And to be honest with you, quote unquote legacy network architecture wasn't simple. It's not simple to administer, manage, right? So I think a lot of organizations are, number one, just have a lot of they're burdened by that overhead of the network complexity, right? And they're just looking for a solution to help them there, but also scalable and flexible for modern day workforces, right? So now, Jonny, from a Cisco perspective, what have you guys seen for customer demand or drivers to start pushing toward that SASE architecture on the Cisco side?
Yeah, so I agree with what Eyal's saying about seeing value and seeing value quickly. But I think we need to differentiate between seeing value quickly and the ability to build up the different components that are part of this solution at the rate that works for each customer. So, you asked specifically about Cisco. We see a lot of value. We see that our customers get a lot of value by starting with something simple like DNS. So if you add DNS security, you can be protecting a network of tens or even hundreds of thousands of users within minutes. It's literally a flip of a switch and not a big architectural change to the customer's network side. And we see customers get value out of that immediately. And they'll see the protection that they're getting and maybe threats that might have got in without that solution or with a previous solution that they were using. But then on top of that, you can start building out. You can add a secure web gateway. You can add cloud firewall, CASB, and then you can bring in the networking part as well and add SD-WAN. And in our case, it's all integrated together. So, very quickly a customer can start small and grow at the pace they want and make it as simple or comprehensive as they need.
Yeah. I mean, do we see SASE as a disruptor in traditional networking, say like VPN, software-defined perimeter, looking at just your branch security or your global backbone? I mean, it's really disrupting the way we've architected our networks, right?
It definitely is. But I would say the drive is coming. It's not that SASE is coming to disrupt the way that we've been working up to now. SASE is coming as an answer to changes and other trends that we're seeing. For example, like I said before, a lot of the work we do today is cloud-based. So you spoke about the traditional VPN. And if I'm working with, Office 365, AWS, and other Google, other cloud-based apps, I don't need my VPN to do my work. So why would I put it on? If it's only going to slow me down, it's going to affect battery life, and employees will not use a VPN if they don't have to. So without VPN, that does open a door to challenges to admins. If you can't see it, you can't control it, you can't protect it. So there's definitely a need to keep up with the changes, and SASE is a good answer to that.
Yeah. Now, yeah, let's talk a little bit about the characteristics and architectural approaches of SASE, right? Because we talked about it earlier, a lot of technology benefits, a lot of business benefits. So let's talk about what that looks like from converging a network that was disparate and maybe piecemeal integrated. But talk about the architecture and some of the characteristics of bringing that into that single SASE type architecture and service.
Okay, so let's speak not about a specific solution, but about a vanilla SASE. It would be built from a cloud service that is globally distributed, that in each and every one of the POPs of the points of presence of this cloud service in each of their data centers would run the full stack of their networking and security capabilities and would use some form of edge connector in order to connect the users and the locations, whether it's branch offices or data centers, into this cloud service. So if it's a remote users working from home or a traveling businessman, that can be an SDP or a VPN client. And if it's a branch office or a data center, that can be an edge SD-WAN device or an IPsec tunnel. All options should be supported by a vanilla SASE. And then once the traffic is routed through this SASE cloud, all the magic happens on the cloud. So all the offloading, all the heavy lifting, and the complicated processing that used to run on on-prem appliances and would be very much limited by the compute power of those appliances that we expect to sustain for 3 to 5 years because we pay tons of money for them, has now moved to the cloud. And the cloud should scale up elastically to support all the requirements and all the compute requirements, whether that inspecting encrypted traffic, hundreds of thousands or millions of parallel communication tunnels and flows, doing big data processing, threat prevention, firewalling all ports and all protocols in the cloud. All those capabilities should be delivered from the cloud. I think an analogy that I often use is Office 365. If we were like 10 years ago and you had an IT organization serving 1,000 employees, you had 2 big Exchange servers running on specific Windows Server versions in your data centers with storage and backup. And if your company acquired another company of another 1,000 employees, and you now had to double the size of your Exchange capabilities, that would be a huge IT project, right? You need to buy more servers and think about RAM and storage and backup and distribution and trust, etc. And with Office 365, you give your company credit card and you scale up from 1,000 to 2,000 subscribers instantly. A SASE should act exactly the same. Once you're connected to the cloud should have the architecture to scale up automatically to your needs. And scaling can be in multiple dimensions. It can be scaling up vertically, which means you add more compute power. It can scale horizontally, which means it increases the footprint, the physical footprint of the cloud, and it can also scale in terms of functionality by adding new capabilities and new threat prevention power and stuff like that, that helps you maintain an optimum security posture.
No, that makes sense. And I think you hit on a very important piece of this, right, is the global points of presence. That's part of the core piece of the SASE architecture. That's a requirement per Gartner, right? You need to make sure that you can scale globally. So for me, you know, as a CIO and a CISO, when I'm vetting a SASE vendor, you know, you really want to take a look at what those points of presence look like globally, right? I mean, that's probably one of the most important things you can look at a SASE vendor. Yeah,
it's actually a very gray area, and I'm happy that you mentioned it. It is, and I'll tell you why. First of all, Gartner say very explicitly that a SASE solution can't rely on the public clouds like AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure, because the SASE vendor needs to control their own fate in terms of how they can scale their network geographically. If I need to open a POP somewhere around the world, I can't be dependent on AWS or Azure to have that location on the roadmap. But if you own your own cloud, you own your own fate. The second thing is that we see many of the SASE providers list hundreds, 150, 200, 500 points of presence, but if they don't all have the exact same capabilities, then it's not a cloud-native architecture. All the POPs should have, according to the definition, should have the exact same capabilities. And one of the things that we encourage our customers to do is to look for their status pages, to go to the status.companyname.com and look and make sure that all those POPs are listed with full transparency around their availability and uptime, and that they all have the exact same capabilities in terms of networking and security. And it's not in the form that if you want, you know, not speaking about specific vendor, but if you want DNS security, you get it from 80 POPs, but then if you want a firewall as a service for all ports, all protocols, it's reduced only to 24 POPs out of those 80. You need to make sure, as a CISO CIO, that wherever you go, wherever your organization expands, you will always get the exact same service from your SASE.
Wow, that's some great information. I mean, that's not something I would have thought of, right? You know, looking at the capabilities of every POP and making sure that they're consistent across every single one, so that way you have the availability of those services no matter where in the world you are, right? And the performance of those services, right? Because of the distribution from the POP. Yeah. I mean, Jonny, anything you want to add from a Cisco perspective?
I can add a few points here. Yeah, certainly. So first of all, Eyal's hit it on the head. It goes down to your cloud architecture, 100%. And likewise, you know, we're aware of vendors that have many dots on the map, but if you sort of start drilling down and seeing not all of those are real data centers that are accessible to all customers, some of them might even just be a server hidden under the stairs in a partner's office or something, but hey, still a dot on the map. But seriously, we're also seeing some vendors that are taking virtualized instances of their architecture and putting that in the cloud, and sort of a way of calling that is racking and stacking, and that is not true cloud architecture. So, you know, our cloud infrastructure has been designed and built up from the ground to scale with our customers, to be a true multi-tenant cloud platform. We're not going to run into issues of scalability. We're not going to run into issues of performance, and we can grow with our customers. The other point that Eyal touched on that I totally agree with is where your locations are. So, we make sure that our infrastructure is paired with tier 1 providers, meaning that when end users are browsing through our infrastructure, they're getting the fastest, the best, and the most reliable connectivity to the internet, with, you know, connecting to where they need to go. And also, it's important for optimization how your infrastructure works. For example, you brought up Office 365. So Microsoft recommends for certain destinations in Office 365 not to proxy that traffic. So it's important that you've got that integration as well. So, for example, when our customers are browsing through our infrastructure to Office 365, we optimize that. We follow Microsoft's guidelines. We pair with Microsoft. We also make sure that for certain destinations that Microsoft recommends not to proxy and not to break and not to decrypt, then that will go direct to there as well. So it's the best performance for end users. And typically, when you deploy a security solution, you're always going to think, this is going to impact my end users and it's going to have an impact on performance. But in many cases, if you optimize correctly and if you've got those peering agreements in place, even though you're going through a proxy, you can end up getting better performance, actually.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we saw, the level 3 outage, right? Where all the peering partners were affected. So having that level of diversity with who you're pairing with and who you're using on the back end is extremely important, just for continuity of operations and uptime, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the business benefit. We talked a little bit about the technical benefits of the architecture. But Jonny, can you talk a little bit about, first and foremost, what are on a lot of people's minds, CIOs, CEOs, board of directors? What are the security benefits that you're going to realize moving to a SASE architecture?
Right. So it's also important. The bottom line is that we're protecting users as well. So, it's important that you have a decent level of threat intel that you can provide devices, even you mentioned IoT devices as well. The attack landscape is getting more and more sophisticated. So having good visibility into that is important as well. And if we talk about the typical thing, way beyond that. So, we provide security solutions for email, for endpoint, for networks. So the amount of visibility that Cisco has is important to provide a good level of security efficacy as well. So it goes down to that as well. Now, having a presence in all of these, the network, makes this convergence much easier as well, because we're just bringing together all of these technologies that we already have been working in for many years anyway.
Right. Now, Eyal, from so many CISOs like myself are looking to move away from that point solution base, right? The complexity of all these point solutions within our environment just adds a level of overhead and honestly, from the practitioner side, a lot of noise, right? Talk to me a little bit about the security benefits of number one, the SASE architecture, and then moving toward that journey of a converged environment.
So I think there are two key aspects to the convergence of SASE on the security side. The first thing is that SASE is a cloud service, which means that it is managed and maintained by the SASE provider. It's the SASE responsibility to make sure that all the security intelligence, all the security feeds are ingested into all their compute locations, into all their POPs all the time, that the IPS is always up to speed with the latest signatures, and that it's working in full capacity mode and not reduced because it didn't have enough CPU power or there wasn't enough manpower to maintain it up to date. So one aspect is keeping an optimum security posture across all the security functions. The second thing is have all the security functions working together in a holistic manner. And let me give you an example that I can make from our solution. When a packet hits a Cato POP, it is decapsulated from the packet header. If it's encrypted, then it's decrypted. And then all the engines, both on the network side and the security side, look at the content of this packet simultaneously and make a shared verdict what to do next. As a result, the IPS knows what the application identity found out, and it knows the user, and it knows what the secure web gateway would say about this flow, and what the SD-WAN can say about the source and the destination of this traffic. So it has much more visibility than a standalone IPS solution. This sharing of knowledge and sharing of decision-making between all those components make a SASE solution much more powerful in terms of visibility and threat prevention. And also it helps CISOs and network administrator get a very good visibility into whatever is happening on the network. Because if you look at the event logs of a SASE platform, all the events are already normalized because everything is already converged. Everything is already aligned to the same data structure across the networking and security. So it also saves you a lot of time in normalizing and cross-correlating the different aspects of the data. So overall, it would give you a great peace of mind on one hand, save you a lot of time and manpower in maintaining everything up to date and up to speed, and on the other hand, would give you a greater visibility and stopping or security power than you had before with point solutions.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I mean, just the level of context you can get by having that converged architecture, right? I see an incredible benefit on security analyst time, security engineering time, and to be honest with you, that same level of context from a performance perspective for your network operations team, right? So bubbling the important information up and making sure that's what's you're putting in front of your teams, that just builds an incredible amount of efficiencies, because I know security teams right now are struggling, right? They're struggling with the amount of data and information that's being presented to them on a daily basis. And that's why leaders like myself are trying to find, that converged solution, really reducing those point solutions to bring that context and information together. So yeah, we talked a lot about, the benefits in the architecture, the security around SASE. How do customers start this journey? I mean, it can be something that I would see as daunting, right? I mean, to look at really reinventing the strategies that you've had on your network and your network security could seem like a daunting task to some. So where do CISOs or CIOs like myself begin this journey?
So the Gartner recommendation is to find the next MPLS renewal or security stack refresh and leverage that budget and opportunity to begin your SASE journey. It's definitely a journey, as Jonny said earlier, and it's going to take months, sometimes years to complete. And I think every SASE platform out there is acceptive of a gradual deployment model where you can move some of the pieces of your IT infrastructure onto the SASE platform one by one. In the Cato case, most of our customers actually come not from the security side, but from the network transformation side. Their MPLS is just not a fit for digital businesses. And as soon as they can get off of their MPLS network, what would usually has been an SD-WAN project is now a SASE project, because SD-WAN is part of SASE. And by not making a tactical decision to replace MPLS with an SD-WAN point solution and making a strategic decision to leverage this opportunity to get into the SASE journey, then they can start with replacing MPLS with the SASE SD-WAN capabilities. And after that, once the firewalls retire, replace them with the firewall as a service from the SASE. And when the VPN concentrators retire, replace them with the ZTNA of the SASE, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jonny, I mean, to Eyal's point, it seems like you can take that hybrid approach, right? You don't have to wait until all of your assets are ready to expire or you're ready to replace all of your assets. You really have the flexibility to migrate piece by piece. What have you seen from your client side of the aisle on how they're dipping their toe into the SASE architecture?
Yeah, so that's a good point as well. I mean, it's very much like we've been saying up to now, where you build up this platform and the architecture at the pace that you need to, which again it just goes down to having a solution that can grow with you and can do include all of these components over time. You want to have flexibility as well. So I have a nice example for that, and that is if you look at Cisco's roaming client AnyConnect, where I mean there's tens or hundreds of millions of these endpoints already, of these agents already in place on endpoints, and just by for many customers, they've probably already got the ability to make this transformation. They don't even know it, or if not, it's just a small upgrade. And then that client can do two things. It can be not just a VPN client, but it can also be a way of leveraging that endpoint for connecting to a SASE solution when the endpoint is not on VPN as well. So definitely important to have this flexibility for customers to grow and to deploy it seamlessly and transparently as well.
No, that's awesome. So talk a little bit about what the future of SASE brings, Jonny, from a Cisco side, and then I'll kick it over to Eyal. I mean, I'm really interested to know what innovations are out there, what's in the product roadmap, what innovative things are in the pipeline in the future for us as businesses to take advantage of from a SASE architecture side.
Okay, so there's lots. First of all, I mean, we've said it, and we'll say it again because it's most important. Try and avoid, or certainly avoid, going with point products because they're just not going to scale, and they're going to be ending up stitching together. If you've got a number of different vendors today, then you're going to have to stitch them all together. You're going to have to work with them. You'll end up with lots of interfaces. You said it yourself. Security teams don't have the manpower. They can't respond to incidents when they have to manage so many different interfaces. Secondly, another area that we haven't touched on is zero trust. So, zero trust is very much part of that, part of the whole solution, and that is the ability to give access to the destination for the specific users that need it. And so, Cisco's very much in that space as well. We've been a leader in the Forrester reports for a couple of years, and we expect to be in the next one as well. And that brings to sort of the next stage for us, which is remote access, which is, as Eyal said, it's taking it a step further. It's just like SASE is a step on from SD-WAN. It's and again, the pandemic has shown us that this is really important. So, not having a dependency on the network, but remote users, roaming users, any user wherever they're working from, giving the option to connect them transparently to where they need to go with security, and only providing access to applications or destinations that users need to go to. And that's where the zero trust comes in. It's exciting. There are many areas we're expanding in, SASE is very much the focus of everything we're doing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, with such a diverse workforce all over the world these days, working from home, working from coffee shops, working from restaurants, identity is such an important piece to security these days, right? I mean, I'm at a point now where myself and my peers, we're talking about identity, application, and data being the center of the universe, because that's really where you need to focus these days, right? Because otherwise, if you're focusing on other things, you're not truly securing the modern day quote unquote network. There's no more perimeter. The perimeter's everywhere. It's spawned all over the world, right? So you really have to protect identity, application, and data. So Eyal, talk to me about the future of SASE from a Cato perspective.
For Cato, the future of SASE is already the present, since this was our vision from the get-go, almost 5 years ago. And I can't speak really about the roadmap because we're playing in a very competitive market right now. Yeah. But I will say a little bit about what we released maybe in the last year. And I think that would be kind of an imply to what we can do or what we're going to do in the future. One example is that we've provided a built-in SIEM, security and event management, natively within our platform without any additional cost. So it was a feature that we released, and all the events from all the networking and security side suddenly appeared in a Kibana-like interface. And it gave all our customers the ability to do a SIEM-level investigation on our cloud service without exporting the data to a third-party SIEM, which was something that was very appreciated. And those are the kind of things that Cato are working to deliver to our customers, enhancing more the basic capabilities or the infrastructure around our basic capabilities in terms of visibility, control, configuration, and analytics around everything that is happening on our platform. And we're actually learning a lot from our customers. We're very attentive to our customers, and our development organization as a service company, not a product company. That's a big difference. It's a service company with a by design cloud native code. we're actually releasing new features every other week since we launched the service. So our customers are really looking forward to the release notes that are coming every other Monday to see what's new and where to look for in the interface and see the video demo of the new features. And it's, it's a living and breathing creature, our SASE. And we're very happy that the architecture, the modern technologies of cloud services and software allow you to do this continuous integration and development and deliver this kind of dynamic to the service.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's really cool to see a network and security company talking about CI/CD pipeline. I mean, to be able to treat it like a software delivery lifecycle and be able to roll out new releases and enhancements weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever the case may be. That's just a level of flexibility on your architecture side, and to be honest with you, service to the customer. That's really refreshing to hear. So that's pretty awesome that you're building this network architecture, these network services and security services, like application development, right? And you can release quickly and with a level of flexibility. That's great. That's awesome.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time and your insight into SASE. For our listeners, for more information on thought leadership or content like this, you can look at our website, Carousel Industries/events. You can look for our Always On virtual series, our webinars, our pizza casts, and future podcasts just like this. Gentlemen, thank you again so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Jason.